Hi, this is Greg Hughes again from 90-Second Website Builder. Welcome to video number 12. In this video, I want to talk to you about putting an audio on your website. Now, it's really easy to do with 90-Second Website Builder. We have a tool under the Media Tools over here, and the name of this tool is, of course, Media Player. Now, the Media Player tool actually does either audio or video. I'm going to use it for an audio in this particular demonstration. You just drag a box on the screen like you do anything else, and then you double-click on it to create the settings. Here I have the Media Player Properties window. Now, there are a couple of things to know. First of all, the type of player that I'm going to use to play my audio is something that's very important for me to know about. And the default player is usually the one you want to use. When I choose default, what I'm telling the website is when my user goes to the website, we want them to be able to play the audio using whatever their audio player is on their local computer. So in other words, most people have a program like, say, QuickTime or Windows Media Player or something like that that plays audio and video files for them. So by choosing default, what I'm saying is I want my website to use whatever the end user normally uses to listen to an audio. There are some other settings here we'll talk about in a minute, but for the most part, we're just going to use default. All I need to do to place an audio on my website is to basically find the audio file. So I'm going to go get one, and here I actually have several. Most of these are the same format. Most of these are what we call WAV files, but I have two A.G. Edwards commercials here. These are 30-second radio spots that I've done, and they're a little bit different. Let me show you. This one, I'm going to hover over it so you can see. This is actually what's called an MP3 format audio. It's the most common one. I want you to notice the size of that file. See where it says 501 KB? That means half a megabyte. That's how big this file is. It's a 32-second commercial, and it's half a megabyte. Well, that same 32-second commercial in another format, right below it here, in a WAV format, is 5.3 megabytes. That's over 10 times the size of the MP3 file. So this is the exact same recording. It's a 32-second recording, and yet the WAV file is 10 times bigger. Why is that? Well, MP3 files are audio files that work great on the internet. Why? Because they're just smaller, more compressed files. Now, sometimes they don't sound as crisp as a WAV file, but in most cases, it's really hard to tell the difference. And most websites do use this format just for the sheer reason that they're smaller and load faster. So in most cases, we're going to want to use an MP3 audio on our website. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to click this and open it. What it does, of course, is it puts the file in the file name field. There's my file, agedwards.mp3. I'm using the default player. I don't want it to auto start, so I'm going to check this. I don't want it to loop, and I'm pretty much done. Let's see what that looks like. So I'm going to click F5 because I can't see it in design mode. I have to use my computer's audio player. So I'm going to have to launch the preview mode. So I'm clicking F5. Now here's what it's going to look like on my computer. Again, since my computer uses a program called QuickTime to play MP3 files, this is what the player is going to look like. If you do this, it may actually look a little bit different, just like it will for all of your website visitors who use anything other than QuickTime. Now, there's only so many audio players, and they all pretty much look the same, but basically you should know that this is going to be affected by the end user's audio player, and since I'm using QuickTime, mine looks like this. Let's see if the audio works. I'll click play. In a world of new higher tax brackets, your investment broker can be a valuable source of investment ideas, and of course it works. There's my A.G. Edwards radio spot. Okay, so that was really simple, but let's talk about some other technical things, and you really don't need to know anything more than that if you want to put an audio on your website. Just remember to use an MP3 file format and choose the default player. However, let's talk about some other formats. Like I said, there are other formats like the WAV file. We could use this WAV file, but the disadvantage is it's just so much bigger. Now, since this is only a 32-second recording, 5 megabytes isn't horrible. But imagine if we were working with a 30-minute recording. Say I wanted to put a 30-minute podcast on my website. Well, you can imagine the size of this file. That's when I'd really want to use an MP3 because it's a smaller, more compressed file. But in the case of a 30-second one, it probably won't matter. Let's try that one. I'm going to select the WAV file. Let me check it by going here. Yep, there says agedwards.wave. Click OK. And I'm going to do F5. And the reason it plays is because QuickTime actually plays WAV files as well as MP3s. So let's see if we can hear the difference. In a world of new higher tax brackets, your investment broker can be a valuable source of investment ideas that can help you reduce tax. It's probably a little bit clearer, but you really can't tell because it's such a small file. So my recommendation is to almost always use an MP3. Use a WAV if you want to for really short audios, and then it'll be all right. Now, what about these other formats? Since I'm using audio, my other option is I could use HTML5 audio. Now, the only time you're going to want to use this is when you're specifically developing your website for an HTML5 browser. For example, if you're building a website for an iPad or an iPhone or some other mobile device that uses HTML5, then this would be a great format to use. And by using HTML5, you have the option of loading in multiple formats, because one of the things that HTML5 can do is it can play several formats. You might put an MP3, a WAV file, an OGG file, or whatever, and what will happen is the website will pick the best format. That sounds really great, doesn't it? Well, it is really great, and that's what's good about HTML5. Here's the catch. Not every desktop has HTML5 working or working correctly because it's fairly new. But again, if you're building or developing for a mobile device, HTML5's a great tool to use. For the most part, most of us are going to use this default setting so that the audio plays per the end user's audio player. And you're mostly going to want to use an MP3. So I know I've said a lot because there's a lot of extra details when working with media. So I'm trying to simplify this for you and just tell you the best thing to do is to use the default player, use an MP3 file, and then click OK. And there you have it. For those of you that are using the paid version of 90-Second Website Builder, I'm going to show you another thing you can do. Those of you using the trial version, this won't apply to you because in the trial version, you can't use what's called an extension. Extensions are only available to people using the full version of 90-Second Website Builder. So if you're using the trial version, you can skip this part. But for you paid version users, you can install an extension by going to the members area and downloading and installing this extension called the MP3 Player. It's a great little tool because it makes this even easier. You just simply click on it, drag your box, and you've got a really nice looking player. So you have better control over what it's going to look like because everybody's player is going to look the same. It's going to look just like this. In fact, you have two settings. It can look like this, or you can shrink it down to look like this. But everybody will see the same player when you use this extension. And it's just as easy to use as the other media tool. You just double click on it, and then you go find your file. I'm going to go browse. And again, it only plays MP3 files, so it's only showing me the MP3 file. I'm going to click that. And here I've chosen my file, A.G. Edwards MP3, click OK, and again, I'm done. Let's try this. I'll click F5. Here's my MP3 player. See, it looks great. All I do is press play. In a world of new higher tax brackets, your investment broker can be a valuable source of investment ideas that can help you reduce taxes. It's all part of the complete service, and you can see it works great and it even looks great. So for those of you using the full version, this is really a great way to play MP3 files. Oh, by the way, you'll notice that you don't have to just play one file. You can make a list of MP3 files and ultimately make sort of a little jukebox and have multiple MP3 files that your user can play. It's a great little tool, but again, only available in the full version of 90-Second Website Builder. So that's really all there is to it. So you can either use the media player tool or, again, the extension tool if you have access to that, and put an audio on your website. It's really that simple.